You've probably heard stories perhaps in passing about strange bruises appearing on a loved one's body, accompanied by vague explanations like, "She tripped, just a little accident," or, "It's nothing." Really. But what if those bruises keep showing up, becoming more pronounced, more painful? What if behind the awkward smiles and averted eyes, something is being hidden? This is the story of Cassandra Granddaughter, who began to realize that even the smallest signs might be silent cries for help. When her growing suspicions no longer allowed her to look the other way, Cassandra did something no one expected. She placed a hidden camera in what seemed to be the peaceful home of her grandmother. What she discovered didn't just break her heart, it revealed a truth so devastating, it left everyone in stunned silence. Listen to this story not just about physical pain, but about the quiet voices of the vulnerable struggling to survive in silence. Cassandra entered her grandmother's house, immediately noticing the tense atmosphere in the air. Evelyn was sitting in the rocking chair, her eyes fixed on a distant point, as if she were lost in her own thoughts. Cassandra approached slowly, her heart heavy as she saw the visible bruises on her grandmother's arm. The purple bruises and red marks stood out against Evelyn's fair skin like painful signs that something was wrong. "Grandmother, what happened?" Cassandra's voice came out soft but firm, loaded with concern. She knelt beside the chair, taking her grandmother's hand carefully, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness as she waited for the response. Evelyn avoided her granddaughter's gaze, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Nothing, dear. Nothing's happening. Don't worry. I think I hurt myself accidentally." The response was quick, almost rehearsed, and Cassandra noticed the hesitation in her grandmother's voice. She knew Evelyn well. The woman who raised her after her mother's death didn't usually hurt herself so easily. Cassandra felt a knot in her chest as she realized something was very wrong. "Grandmother, you're hiding something," Cassandra insisted, searching for her grandmother's eyes. The silence that followed was heavy, almost palpable. Evelyn finally looked at her granddaughter, but her eyes were filled with sadness and fear. "No, I'm not hiding anything. Don't worry, my dear. We elderly sometimes hurt ourselves, and that's normal. Don't worry." But Cassandra knew this wasn't normal. She could see the anguish in her grandmother's eyes even when she tried to disguise it. Margaret O'Brien, Evelyn's caregiver, entered the room at that moment, interrupting the tense silence. "Good afternoon, Cassandra. Is everything all right here?" Cassandra looked at Margaret, feeling a wave of distrust. She had always liked Margaret, but recent events had left her paranoid. "Margaret, have you noticed these bruises on my grandmother? Do you know where they might have come from?" Margaret seemed surprised by the question. "Yes, I noticed the bruises, but Evelyn said it was nothing serious, that she had hurt herself alone. I asked several times, but she always gave the same answer." Margaret's expression was one of genuine concern, but Cassandra couldn't help feeling distrustful. Was Margaret hiding something? With a sigh, Cassandra decided she needed to take a more drastic measure. "Thank you, Margaret. I just want to make sure my grandmother is safe." The caregiver nodded, seeming understanding, but Cassandra couldn't shake the feeling that something very serious was happening. Cassandra thought, "I can't ignore this anymore. Something is happening, and I need to find out what it is." That night, Cassandra was determined to protect her grandmother. She took out a small security camera she had bought some time ago, thinking of using it for an investigative journalism project. With trembling hands, she discreetly installed the camera in Evelyn's room, choosing an angle that would capture the entire area. "Don't worry, grandmother. This is for your protection. I'm going to find out what's happening here," she thought as she placed the camera in a strategic location. Cassandra felt a mixture of fear and determination. "I need to protect my grandmother. She's all I have left," she said aloud, trying to convince herself she was doing the right thing. "I hope this reveals the truth, whatever it may be." Cassandra finished installing the camera and returned to the living room, finding Evelyn still sitting in the rocking chair with her eyes closed. "Grandmother, it's late. You should go to sleep." Evelyn opened her eyes slowly, as if awakening from a distant dream. She nodded slowly and got up with Cassandra's help, leaning on her granddaughter's arm as they walked toward the bedroom. Cassandra felt an enormous weight on her shoulders. "I love you, grandmother. I promise I'll find out what's happening and protect you, she thought. Cassandra watched her grandmother settle into bed before leaving the room, determined not to rest until the truth came to light. One day, Cassandra was at her desk at the Boston Herald investigative desk, surrounded by piles of documents and notes. The computer light reflected on her face, highlighting her concentrated features. I chose this profession because I believe in truth, she thought, as she reviewed an article about political corruption. The desire to discover truth had always driven Cassandra. Each new piece of information that emerged in her investigations was like a piece of a puzzle she needed to assemble. The phone on Cassandra's desk rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was a source with new information about an ongoing investigation. "Hello, this is Cassandra," she answered, her voice firm and professional as she listened to the person on the other end of the line. She took quick notes, absorbing every detail. The truth must be revealed, whatever the cost, she thought, feeling determination grow within her. Meanwhile, Evelyn was sitting in the living room, the aroma of chamomile tea filling the air. She looked around, feeling a mixture of pride and sadness. This house is full of memories, she thought, as she gently caressed her still aching arm. Every corner, every object told a story of her life and her family. I have so much love for this house, for everything I built here. Evelyn had always been a strong woman. She remembered the difficult times after her daughter Vivienne's death. Losing Vivienne was the worst moment of my life, she thought, feeling tears accumulate. But I had Cassandra. She gave me strength to continue. Raising her granddaughter alone had been a challenge, but Evelyn never gave up. I would do anything for her. Evelyn remembered little Cassandra running through the garden. She was always so full of life, she reflected with a smile. Seeing her grow and overcome challenges made everything more bearable. Evelyn knew that her love and sacrifice had helped shape the strong woman Cassandra had become. In recent times, however, Evelyn felt more vulnerable. I'm getting old, she thought with a sigh. The bruises on her arm were a constant reminder of her recent fragility. I can't let Cassandra discover what's happening, she thought, trying to hide her concern. She didn't want to burden her granddaughter with more problems. The clock marked the end of the day, and Evelyn knew it was time to go to bed. I need to rest, she told herself, getting up with effort. Every movement was a reminder of her age and the difficulties she was facing. But I won't give up. Cassandra needs me as much as I need her. Upon entering her room, Evelyn looked around without imagining there was a hidden camera there. She's so worried about me, she thought with a sad smile, not knowing that Cassandra had installed the camera to discover the truth. I understand her, but I need to protect her from the truth. Evelyn knew the situation was becoming unsustainable, but she didn't want to cause her granddaughter more suffering. Lying in bed, Evelyn reflected on her life. I did the best I could, she thought, feeling a mixture of pride and regret. I hope Cassandra understands my reasons. She closed her eyes, letting memories of a life full of love and sacrifice console her. I love her so much, she thought, as sleep enveloped her. Cassandra entered the room to check how Evelyn was. Grandmother, how do you feel? She asked, sitting beside the bed. Evelyn opened her eyes and smiled, trying to hide her concern. I'm fine, dear. Just a little tired. Cassandra held her grandmother's hand, feeling her fragility. I'm going to find out what's happening, she thought as Evelyn slept. Cassandra left the room silently. I need to solve this, she thought with her heart heavy. Each day that passed, she felt the urgency to protect her grandmother increase. I'm going to discover the truth, no matter what it costs. And with that determination, Cassandra went to her own room, ready to continue the search for truth. The next day, for several days, she reviewed the security cameras, but found nothing about what could be happening. She thought about Evelyn's life and the difficulties she had faced. One day, Evelyn sat in the rocking chair while the crackling fireplace filled the room with comforting warmth. Her thoughts drifted to the past as she remembered her early years. I became a widow so young, she thought, feeling a knot in her throat as she remembered the husband she lost tragically. I had to be strong to raise Vivienne alone. Each day was a struggle, but Evelyn always found strength in the love she felt for her children. They were my reason for living, my greatest treasure. She remembered Vivienne and Roderick when they were small. running through the yard with cheerful laughter. My children were always the light of my life, she reflected as a nostalgic smile appeared on her face. Despite all the difficulties, we managed to be happy. Life hadn't been easy, but the moments of happiness compensated for every sacrifice. Evelyn worked hard, many times doing double shifts to make sure nothing was lacking for her children. The years passed quickly, and Vivienne and Roderick grew up. Vivienne was always the most sensitive, she thought, remembering her daughter fondly. She had an enormous heart. Vivienne had a brief relationship but ended up pregnant with Cassandra. When Vivienne told me she was pregnant, I felt a mixture of concern and joy, Evelyn remembered. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to help her. Unfortunately, life had other plans. Vivienne had health complications and died when Cassandra was only 4 years old. Losing Vivienne was the deepest pain I've ever felt, thought Evelyn, feeling tears run down her cheeks. But I had to be strong for Cassandra. Raising her granddaughter alone was an immense challenge, but Evelyn never doubted. Cassandra needed me, and that gave me strength to continue. I promised myself I would do everything possible to protect and love my granddaughter. Roderick, on the other hand, distanced himself from the family after marrying early and having 2 children. I always thought Roderick needed space, reflected Evelyn, but I never imagined he would distance himself so much. The distance between them became a silent wound in Evelyn's heart. Cassandra, however, brought new joy to Evelyn's life. My granddaughter is my reason for living, thought Evelyn with a smile. She gave me strength to continue. She remembered when Cassandra took her first steps, or when both spent entire afternoons cooking together. Every laugh, every hug from Cassandra reminded me that life still had much to offer, reflected Evelyn. The difficulties didn't stop appearing, but Evelyn faced each one with courage and determination. I had to be mother and father for Cassandra, she thought, feeling the weight of the responsibilities she carried throughout the years. And I don't regret anything. The love she felt for her granddaughter was unconditional and motivated her to keep going despite all challenges. Evelyn remembered difficult moments, like the days when money was scarce and she had to juggle to pay bills. I worked a lot, but I always did it with love, she thought, because Cassandra deserved the best. Each sacrifice was proof of the unbreakable love Evelyn felt for her granddaughter, and she knew every effort was worth it. Even with all the difficulties, Evelyn found joy in small things. Seeing Cassandra grow was a gift, she reflected. She became a strong and independent woman. She felt pride in her granddaughter, who followed a career in investigative journalism, always seeking truth and helping others. She inherited my determination, thought Evelyn with a gleam in her eyes, and that fills me with pride. Returning to the present, Evelyn looked at the photo of Vivienne and Cassandra on the nightstand. I did the best I could, she thought, feeling at peace with her decisions. And I know Vivienne would be proud of Cassandra. Although years had passed and difficulties were many, Evelyn's love and resilience continued to guide her. Life was hard, but love always kept us united, she concluded with a serene smile. One day, Cassandra was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open in front of her. She had begun reviewing the security camera recordings installed in Evelyn's room. I hope to find something that explains the bruises, she thought as she watched the images. Initially, she saw nothing suspicious. Evelyn appeared sleeping or moving around the house routinely. Cassandra sighed in frustration. I can't give up now, she told herself, determined to continue the search. Each day that passed, the tension within Cassandra increased. She found herself looking at her grandmother with more detailed attention, noticing small details that previously didn't catch her attention. Grandmother seems more tired than normal, she reflected as she watched Evelyn move around the kitchen. There's something wrong, but what? The uncertainty left her restless, and she knew she needed to discover the truth soon. Cassandra had begun paying more attention to Evelyn's daily routines. Every small gesture, every sigh of fatigue or pain now seemed like an important clue. Am I becoming paranoid? She wondered, but quickly dismissed the doubt. No, something is happening here. Her determination grew each day, driven by the deep love she felt for her grandmother. The lack of concrete evidence was beginning to weigh on Cassandra. What if I never discover what's happening? She thought, fighting against frustration. She knew she needed patience, but each day without answers increased her anxiety. I can't leave grandmother in this situation, she promised, trying to maintain calm. Cassandra began avoiding unnecessary outings, preferring to stay home to monitor Evelyn closely. I need to be here if something happens, she thought as she canceled a meeting with friends. Her social life began to be affected by the obsession to discover the truth. My friends will understand, she justified. Grandmother is my priority. Some days, Evelyn received visits from neighbors and friends, and Cassandra began wondering if someone outside the family could be involved. Could it be one of them? She noticed nothing abnormal in the ladies. What if it's Margaret who's hurting my grandmother? The caregiver had always been kind, but Cassandra knew she couldn't rule out anyone. I need to consider all possibilities, she decided, although that meant distrusting people close to them. The idea made her uncomfortable, but she knew she couldn't let her guard down. Days later, Cassandra was again reviewing the recordings. It was morning, and her mind was exhausted, but she remained firm. I need to find something, she thought, feeling fatigue weigh on her eyes. Suddenly, something in the images caught her attention. Roderick, her uncle, entered Evelyn's room. Cassandra felt her heart race. What is he doing here? She murmured, feeling a wave of shock. Cassandra watched as Roderick approached Evelyn with a menacing stance. I can't believe what I'm seeing, she thought as tears began running down her face. Roderick was holding Evelyn by the arms, shaking her. How could you, Uncle Roderick? She whispered, feeling pain and betrayal take hold of her. The scene in the recordings unfolded cruelly. Roderick was forcing Evelyn to sign a document, but she was resisting. What does he want her to sign? Thought Cassandra, feeling desperation increase. Evelyn, with tears in her eyes, refused to give in to her son's pressure. I'm not going to sign that, Cassandra heard her grandmother say with a weak but determined voice. Roderick began to get agitated, anger evident on his face. You're going to sign, Mother, he shouted, shaking the paper in front of her. Evelyn continued refusing, and Cassandra saw her uncle's frustration increase. He's losing control, she thought, horrified. This is monstrous. Feeling the injustice of the situation, Cassandra knew she couldn't let this continue. Cassandra continued watching, unable to look away. Roderick, now visibly furious, raised his voice even more. Sign this now. Evelyn, crying, maintained her refusal, which only increased Roderick's anger. This is unbearable, thought Cassandra, feeling helpless before the images. Grandmother doesn't deserve this. She knew she had to act quickly. I need to gather all the evidence, she thought as she saved the recordings on a flash drive. The police need to see this. The urgency of the situation made her act with speed and precision. I won't let Roderick get away with this, she thought as she prepared to leave home. Cassandra went to her grandmother's room and looked at her. Evelyn was sleeping, unaware of the danger she was in. I'm going to protect you, grandmother, she thought, feeling a wave of love and sadness. You did so much for me. Now it's my turn to take care of you. Cassandra reflected on Roderick. I hadn't seen my uncle for many years, she thought, trying to process his presence in Evelyn's house. I never imagined he was coming here. The memory of the images filled her with rage. How could he do this? Cassandra also began thinking about Margaret. How is it possible that Margaret didn't notice what was happening? Doubts and suspicions grew. Uncle Roderick won't escape this, she thought, feeling her blood boil. I'm going to confront him right now. Determined, she got in her car and drove toward Roderick's house. He's going to pay for what he did, she promised herself, as she accelerated through the streets with determination burning in her heart. Cassandra parked the car in front of Roderick's house with her heart beating strongly. She felt anger pulsing through her veins, but also unwavering determination. She knocked on the door forcefully, anxiously waiting for her uncle to appear. Roderick opened the door with an expression of surprise that soon transformed into disdain. Cassandra, what are you doing here? He asked, trying to maintain composure. Cassandra entered without being invited, her gaze fixed on Roderick. I know what you did to grandmother. she said with a firm voice loaded with emotion. "And you're not going to get away with it." Roderick tried to defend himself, raising his hands in a gesture of innocence. "I didn't do anything. You don't know what you're talking about," he affirmed, trying to maintain calm. But Cassandra wasn't intimidated. "It's no use denying it. I have the recordings," she declared, feeling her fury grow. "I installed a camera in grandmother's room and saw everything. I saw you mistreating her and trying to force her to sign that document." Roderick's expression changed from surprise to anger. "You have no right to do this," he shouted, advancing a step toward Cassandra. But she didn't back down. "I have the right to protect grandmother," she responded with a firm and determined voice, "and I'll do it whatever the cost. You're going to pay for what you did, Uncle Roderick. I won't let you hurt grandmother again." Roderick tried to change tactics, appealing to reason. "Cassandra, you're exaggerating. I was just trying to resolve things," he said, trying to appear calm. "Mom is old and confused. I just wanted to make sure everything was in order." Cassandra felt a wave of contempt for those words. "Resolve things?" she repeated, incredulous. "Forcing grandmother to sign a document while mistreating her? That's not resolving things. That's abuse." Roderick realized his attempts at justification were failing and adopted a defensive posture. "I have the evidence," affirmed Cassandra, looking directly into Roderick's eyes, "and I'll deliver them to the police. Your time is up, Uncle Roderick." He was speechless for a moment, anger and fear mixing in his expression. "This won't stay like this," he threatened, but Cassandra only shook her head. "You'll face justice." With those words, she left and headed to the Boston Police Department, Area A1, feeling relief mixed with adrenaline. Cassandra entered the police station with the flash drive containing the recordings firm in her hand. She approached the counter, feeling a mixture of nervousness and determination. "I need to speak with someone about an abuse case," she said with a firm voice despite the trembling. The receptionist led her to a detective named Armando Vasquez, who listened to her attentively. "It's about my grandmother," explained Cassandra, showing the flash drive. "I have evidence that my uncle is mistreating her." The detective paused the video at several key moments, documenting each instance of physical and emotional abuse. "This constitutes elder abuse under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 19A, he explained to Cassandra. "The evidence is clear and compelling. Your uncle could face up to 10 years in prison for these charges alone. This is very serious," he said finally. "We're going to initiate a formal investigation immediately." Cassandra felt a wave of relief, but she knew the work wasn't finished yet. "Thank you," she responded, feeling gratitude mixed with concern for Evelyn. "I just want my grandmother to be safe." Cassandra returned home with a heavy heart, knowing she would have a difficult conversation ahead. Upon entering, she found Evelyn sitting in the living room, visibly affected. "Grandmother, we need to talk. I know what Uncle Roderick did, and I've already taken appropriate measures. The police are investigating." Evelyn began to cry, tears running silently down her wrinkled face. "He wanted me to sign a document," she said with a voice broken by emotion. "So the house would be his. I didn't want to, but he threatened me." Cassandra felt her heart tighten hearing the confession. "I'm so scared, Cassandra," continued Evelyn, trembling. "I didn't know what to do." Cassandra hugged Evelyn tightly, feeling her grandmother's pain and fear as if they were her own. "We're in this together, grandmother," she said with a firm voice. "You're not alone. You're protected with me." Evelyn held her granddaughter, finding some comfort in the warmth of the embrace. "Thank you, dear," she said with a weak but grateful voice. "I don't know what I would do without you." After the conversation with Evelyn, Cassandra decided to confront Margaret. "Margaret, how is it possible you didn't realize what was happening with grandmother?" questioned Cassandra, with a voice loaded with distrust. Margaret, visibly uncomfortable, responded, "I really didn't know, Cassandra. I was just doing my job." Cassandra observed the caregiver attentively, looking for signs of lies. "It's hard to believe you didn't notice anything," she said, feeling a wave of frustration. During the investigation, the truth came to light. Margaret was Roderick's accomplice. She knew everything, revealed Detective Vasquez to Cassandra. Roderick was paying Margaret to stay silent about his visits and to provide him access to the house when you weren't there. Cassandra felt a mixture of anger and betrayal. How could she do this? She thought with her heart heavy. We trusted her. She fired Margaret immediately. You're fired, Margaret, she said with a firm voice. I can't allow someone who betrayed our trust to continue caring for my grandmother. Margaret left without saying a word, shame evident on her face. Cassandra felt relief mixed with sadness. Now I need to find someone we can trust. Cassandra hired a new caregiver for Evelyn, recommended by trusted friends. She'll take good care of you, grandmother, said Cassandra, trying to reassure Evelyn. I checked all her references. We're in good hands. The new caregiver, Mrs. Dorothy Wilson, was a retired nurse with over 20 years of experience and excellent references. During the first week, Mrs. Wilson proved her competence and dedication, maintaining detailed records of Evelyn's daily activities and health status, something Margaret had never done. She maintained detailed records of Evelyn's daily activities and health status, something Margaret had never done. Your grandmother's blood pressure is stable, and she's been eating well, Mrs. Wilson reported to Cassandra each evening. I've worked with elderly patients for over 20 years, she had assured Cassandra during the interview. Your grandmother will be in safe hands. The transparency and professionalism were exactly what Evelyn needed after the trauma she had experienced. Cassandra felt relieved to have found someone trustworthy after the betrayal they had experienced. Evelyn smiled slightly, still affected by what had happened but confident in Cassandra's judgment. The police investigation advanced rapidly. Detective Vasquez discovered that Roderick had been visiting Evelyn regularly for 3 months, always when Cassandra was at work. The recordings showed a pattern of psychological abuse and increasing physical intimidation. This was a calculated scheme, Vasquez explained to Cassandra. Your uncle had been planning this for months, waiting for the right moment to pressure your grandmother into signing over the property deed. Roderick was called to testify, and the evidence from the recordings weighed against him. Cassandra accompanied every step of the process, determined to see justice done. He won't get away with it, she thought as she watched the police gather more evidence. Grandmother will finally have peace. However, some strange things began to happen. Cassandra began noticing strange movements around her. Since she had reported Roderick, a sensation of being followed accompanied her wherever she went. I must be imagining things, she thought initially, trying to dismiss the paranoia. But the evidence was undeniable. Is someone trying to intimidate me? Cassandra wondered, feeling her heart tighten. The threats began arriving. At first they were subtle, but soon became direct and terrifying. Withdraw the complaint against Roderick, or you'll regret it, said one of the messages, making Cassandra tremble. She knew she couldn't back down, but fear for what might happen to Evelyn increased each day. I need to protect grandmother, she thought with determination. One night, while reviewing documents on her laptop, Cassandra noticed a car parked across the street with the lights off. This is no coincidence, she thought, feeling a wave of panic. She decided to increase security at home, installing cameras and reinforcing locks. I won't let them intimidate us. With a firm gaze, Cassandra sat with Evelyn in the living room, trying to explain the situation without alarming her. Grandmother, we need to be careful, she said, holding Evelyn's hand firmly. Evelyn looked at her, eyes filled with concern. What's happening, dear? She asked, feeling fear infiltrate. Cassandra sighed, trying to find the right words. Someone is trying to intimidate us, but we're going to be fine. I've already taken measures for our security. Evelyn nodded, trusting her granddaughter but unable to hide her fear. Why are they doing this, Cassandra? She asked with a trembling voice. Cassandra looked into her grandmother's eyes, trying to transmit calm. Because they want me to withdraw the complaint against Uncle Roderick. But we're not going to give in, she affirmed decidedly. We're going to fight for justice. The following days were filled with tension. Cassandra was constantly alert, observing every movement around her. I won't let them harm us, she thought repeatedly, her determination growing. She began planning safer routines for Evelyn and herself, avoiding going out alone and maintaining constant contact with trusted friends. One night, Cassandra received a message that made her blood freeze. Withdraw the complaint or something worse will happen, the message said, accompanied by a photo of her house taken from up close. This is going too far, she thought, feeling a wave of anger and fear. She knew she needed to intensify security measures and involve the police even more. Cassandra decided to visit the police station again, bringing new evidence of the threats. They need to know we're being pressured, she thought as she prepared to leave. Upon arriving, she handed the messages and photos to Detective Vasquez, who was responsible for the case. Someone is trying to intimidate us, so we'll withdraw the complaint against my uncle, she explained with a firm voice despite her nervousness. Vasquez looked at the evidence, his expression becoming increasingly serious. We're going to increase surveillance around your house, he said, taking notes. Don't worry, Cassandra. We'll make sure you and your grandmother are safe. Cassandra felt momentary relief, but knew there was still a long road ahead. Thank you, she said, leaving the station with renewed determination. Cassandra decided to involve more trusted people in the situation. She met with close friends and family, explaining what was happening and asking for help. We need eyes and ears everywhere, she explained as friends listened attentively. Anything suspicious, any strange movement, we need to know. The support network forming around her gave her strength. Security measures at home intensified. In addition to cameras and reinforced locks, Cassandra installed alarms and motion sensors. Every precaution is necessary, she thought as she reviewed the systems. We can't take risks. Her determination to protect Evelyn and herself was unshakable despite the constant fear. One day, Cassandra was at home, still dealing with the tension of the threats, when the phone rang. It was Detective Vasquez, his voice firm on the other end of the line. Cassandra, I need you to come to the station as soon as possible. We have news about the case. Cassandra's heart accelerated. I'm on my way, she responded, feeling a mixture of anxiety and relief. She took her things and left quickly, her mind boiling with possible discoveries. Upon arriving at the station, Vasquez received her with a grave expression. Cassandra, we made an important discovery, he began, leading her to a meeting room. We found out who's behind the threats against you and Evelyn. Cassandra felt her stomach churn with nervousness. Who is it? She asked, anxious for answers. Vasquez took a deep breath before responding. It's Roderick's 2 sons, he revealed. They're deeply in debt, and together with Roderick, devised a diabolical plan to get Evelyn's house and sell it to pay their debts. Cassandra felt a wave of shock and rage. I can't believe it, she murmured, trying to process the information. So all this persecution was orchestrated by them? Yes, confirmed Vasquez. We have sufficient evidence to prove that Roderick and his sons were threatening you, trying to force you to withdraw the complaint and sign the house over to them. Cassandra felt a mixture of relief and indignation. They're going to pay for this, she said with a firm voice. I won't let them go unpunished. We're going to arrest Roderick and his sons immediately, said Vasquez with a determined look. You did the right thing coming to us, Cassandra. Now we can ensure you and your grandmother are safe. Cassandra nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude and relief. Thank you, Detective Vasquez, she said with an emotional voice. Finally, this is going to end. While Vasquez coordinated the operation, Cassandra thought about everything they had gone through, all this pain and suffering, all because of their greed, she thought, feeling a knot in her throat. But the prospect of justice finally being done filled her with hope. We'll make it, grandmother, she thought with a determined smile. Minutes later, Vasquez returned to the room. We're ready to act, he said. You can go home now, Cassandra. We'll take care of everything. Cassandra felt a weight lift from her shoulders. I'm going to tell grandmother, she said, standing up. She needs to know everything's going to be all right. Vasquez nodded. Good luck, Cassandra, and don't hesitate to contact us if you need more help. Cassandra returned home feeling a lightness she hadn't felt in weeks. Upon entering, she found Evelyn in the living room, visibly worried. Grandmother, I have good news, said Cassandra, sitting beside her. The police discovered who's behind the threats. It was Uncle Roderick's sons. Evelyn was shocked. My grandsons? She asked, incredulous. But why? They're in debt, and together with Uncle Roderick, wanted your house to sell it and pay their debts? explained Cassandra. But the police are already acting. They're going to arrest them all. Evelyn began to cry, but this time with relief. Thank God, she said, holding Cassandra's hand. Finally, this is going to end. The police operation was quick and efficient. Roderick and his sons were arrested and taken to the station. The charges against them included elder abuse, attempted fraud, intimidation, and conspiracy. Roderick faced additional charges for physical assault. The district attorney assured Cassandra that with the video evidence and witness testimony, they had a strong case. They're looking at significant prison time, he explained. Your grandmother's courage in speaking up will help ensure justice is served. Cassandra followed the news on television, feeling deep satisfaction. Finally, they're going to pay for what they did, she thought with a smile of relief. Justice has been done. In prison, Roderick reflected on his decisions. How did I get to this point? He asked, sitting in the cold cell. He knew his greed had led him to ruin, but regret came too late. Cassandra visited him once, just to look into the eyes of the man who had caused so much suffering. You destroyed our family, she said with a firm voice. Roderick couldn't maintain eye contact. I'm sorry, he murmured. But Cassandra knew those words wouldn't erase what he had done. Roderick's sons faced their own battles in prison. Our father ruined us, they thought, each in their cell. They knew their actions were unforgivable, but they also felt deep bitterness for having blindly followed Roderick's plans. We should never have gotten involved in this, reflected the older one, feeling the weight of his decisions. Life in prison was hard, and they faced the consequences of their actions daily. They were part of our family, she thought as she looked at old photos. But she knew she couldn't let sadness consume her. Evelyn needed her, and now more than ever, she had to be strong. I'm going to move forward for us, she decided with renewed determination. In the following days, Cassandra and Evelyn's life began returning to normal. The threats ceased, and the feeling of security returned to fill the house. We did it, grandmother, said Cassandra, hugging Evelyn tightly. They won't hurt us anymore. Evelyn smiled, still emotional. Thank you, dear, she said, for never giving up on me. Cassandra knew the road ahead would still have its challenges, but with Evelyn by her side, she felt ready to face anything. We'll keep going forward, she thought, feeling hope renew. Together, always. The love and resilience that united them were stronger than any adversity, and that was all they needed to move forward, with certainty that the worst had passed. During this period of healing, Cassandra returned to her work at the Boston Herald with renewed focus. It was at a press conference about healthcare reforms that she first met Dr. Nathaniel Brooks, a young physician who was speaking about elderly care. His passionate advocacy for senior citizens' rights caught her attention immediately. He really cares about people like grandmother, she thought, as she listened to his presentation. After the conference, they struck up a conversation about the challenges facing elderly patients, and Cassandra found herself drawn to his compassionate perspective and gentle demeanor. Months passed, and everything returned to normal. It was then that something new happened in the life of the grandmother and granddaughter. Cassandra felt a new breath of life when she met Nathaniel, a dedicated young doctor who crossed her path unexpectedly. He's different, she thought, as she prepared to introduce him to her grandmother. Evelyn was in the kitchen preparing tea when Cassandra entered with Nathaniel. Grandmother, this is Nathaniel, she said with a nervous smile. Evelyn looked at him with curiosity and after a moment of silence, opened a welcoming smile. Welcome, Nathaniel, she said, extending her hand. Nathaniel shook Evelyn's hand with respect. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Hartwell. I've heard so much about you, he said, feeling immediately at ease. Evelyn laughed, her eyes shining with affection. I hope only good things, she responded, looking at Cassandra with a complicit smile. Nathaniel, sit down and have tea with us, invited Evelyn, feeling good energy in the air. As they conversed, Cassandra observed the interaction between Nathaniel and Evelyn with relief and joy. They get along, she thought with a warm heart. Nathaniel told funny stories from his work, making Evelyn laugh. You have a good sense of humor, Nathaniel, she said, liking the young man more and more. Cassandra felt relieved. This is a good start, she thought, seeing her grandmother so happy. Over the months, the relationship between Cassandra and Nathaniel strengthened. "He's everything I needed," reflected Cassandra, feeling more and more in love. Nathaniel always showed himself attentive and caring, both with her and with Evelyn. "Cassandra, you've found a good man," said Evelyn, always observant. "I'm happy for you, dear." Cassandra smiled, feeling her grandmother's support as a blessing. Nathaniel and Cassandra decided to take a step forward in their relationship. "Will you marry me?" asked Nathaniel, holding Cassandra's hand with a gleam in his eyes. Cassandra felt her heart accelerate. "Yes, Nathaniel, I will," she responded emotionally. The wedding was planned carefully, involving Evelyn in every detail. "I want you to feel part of this, grandmother," said Cassandra as they chose flowers. "Of course, dear," responded Evelyn with proud eyes. The wedding day arrived, and the ceremony was simple but full of love. Evelyn was in the front row with tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you, Cassandra," she thought as she watched her granddaughter walk toward the altar. Nathaniel looked at Cassandra with love and admiration as she approached. "I'm ready to start this new life with you," thought Nathaniel, feeling the emotion of the moment. During the reception, Evelyn gave a brief speech, moving everyone. "Nathaniel, welcome to our family. Cassandra, I'm very happy for you," she said with a choked voice. "You'll always have my love and support." Cassandra approached her grandmother, hugging her tightly. "Thank you, grandmother," she whispered, feeling blessed to have her in her life. Married life brought a new dynamic for Cassandra. "I've never felt so complete," she thought as she arranged the new house with Nathaniel. They kept Evelyn always close, visiting her regularly and making sure she never felt alone. "You're part of our life, grandmother," said Cassandra as she helped Evelyn tend the garden. Evelyn felt fulfilled seeing her granddaughter's happiness. Nathaniel proved to be a dedicated and loving husband. "I'm happy we found each other," he told Cassandra in quiet moments. He planned the future with enthusiasm, always considering Evelyn. "We'll make sure she has everything she needs," they agreed. The constant presence of Nathaniel and Cassandra brought joy and security to Evelyn. 2 years passed since Cassandra and Nathaniel's wedding, and life had been generous to them. Cassandra was pregnant, and the news had filled the house with joy. "Nathaniel, we're going to have a baby," she said with tears of happiness shining in her eyes. Nathaniel hugged her tightly, feeling like the luckiest man in the world. "I'm so happy, Cassandra," he responded with a voice choked with emotion. "Our child is going to be very loved." During pregnancy, Evelyn was present at every moment. "Grandmother, what do you think of this name?" asked Cassandra as they discussed possibilities for the baby. Evelyn smiled, feeling involved and important. "Felix is a beautiful name, dear," she said, caressing Cassandra's belly. "He's going to bring a lot of light to our lives." Cassandra agreed, feeling the warmth of family love. The day of Felix's birth arrived, and the family was gathered at Massachusetts General Hospital, waiting anxiously. "Everything's going to be fine," thought Cassandra, feeling confident with Nathaniel by her side. When Felix was finally born, the baby's cry filled the room, bringing tears to everyone's eyes. "He's perfect," said Nathaniel, looking at his son with admiration. "Our little miracle." Evelyn, upon holding Felix for the first time, felt a wave of happiness she had never experienced. "My great-grandson," she murmured with tears running down her face. "You're the joy of our family, Felix." Cassandra watched the scene with a smile, feeling complete. "Grandmother is lucky to have you," she said emotionally. Evelyn just nodded, unable to contain the joy. Felix's first months of life were filled with discoveries and precious moments. "He's ready," said Nathaniel, marveled by each new development of his son. Cassandra felt fulfilled caring for Felix with all the love she had learned from Evelyn. "I want to be the best mother I can," she thought, watching Felix sleep. "Just like you were for me, grandmother." Evelyn spent hours with Felix in her arms, singing lullabies and telling stories. "You're going to grow surrounded by love, my little one," she promised, feeling rejuvenated by her great-grandson's presence. "I'll be here to see each of your steps." Felix, with his bright eyes, seemed to understand every word, bringing joy and renewed hope to Evelyn. Cassandra and Nathaniel delighted in each new moment with Felix. "He's our greatest joy," said Cassandra as Nathaniel rocked Felix in his arms. The house was always full of laughter and love, reflecting the happiness Felix had brought. "We're building something beautiful here," thought Nathaniel, feeling grateful for his family. "I feel blessed to be so involved," said Evelyn, appreciating every moment with Felix. Cassandra felt grateful for her grandmother's constant presence. "You're our pillar, grandmother," she said, always valuing Evelyn's support and love. Felix's first birthday was a celebration full of joy and laughter. "He's growing so fast," observed Nathaniel as Evelyn helped decorate the cake. Cassandra felt a wave of emotion seeing her family gathered, all sharing the happiness of the moment. "This is just the beginning of many celebrations," she thought, looking at Felix with love. At the end of the party, Evelyn held Felix in her arms, feeling happier than ever. "You've brought new light to our lives, my great-grandson," she whispered as Felix played with her fingers. "Thank you for this joy." Cassandra watched the scene with tears in her eyes, feeling deeply blessed. "Our family is complete," she thought with a heart full of gratitude and love. 3 years later, after serving their sentences, Roderick and his sons knew they could never erase the past. "We have to live with the consequences of our actions," thought Roderick, resigned. But they continued trying, looking for ways to help other prisoners, trying to make some difference. "At least we can try to leave something good," they said in their meetings. It was a long and arduous path, but a necessary step to try to find some kind of peace. After serving their sentences, they decided the only way to move forward was to seek forgiveness from Evelyn and Cassandra. "We need to do this," said Roderick to his sons, feeling the weight of guilt. "We owe them an apology." His sons agreed, aware that this was the only way to try to find some kind of inner peace. Cassandra was at home with Evelyn when the doorbell rang. She opened the door and found herself face to face with Roderick and his sons. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprised and tense. Roderick, with eyes full of regret, responded, "We came to ask for forgiveness, Cassandra." Cassandra felt a wave of conflicted emotions, but decided to listen to what they had to say. "Come in," she said with a hesitant voice. Evelyn was sitting in the living room when they entered. "Mother," began Roderick with a choked voice, "we came to ask for forgiveness for all the damage we caused." Evelyn looked at them, her heart heavy with years of pain and betrayal. Roderick's sons, seeing the pain in Evelyn's eyes, felt even more repentant. "We just wanted to follow our father, but we realized how wrong we were," said the older one with tears in his eyes. Cassandra, feeling the internal conflict, looked at her grandmother. "Grandmother, what do you want to do?" she asked, wanting to respect Evelyn's feelings. Evelyn took a deep breath. The silence in the room was palpable. "I forgive you," she said finally with a trembling voice. "I don't hold grudges in my heart, but I can't forget what you did." Cassandra looked at her grandmother with admiration. "I forgive you too," she said firmly. "But we can't go back to what we were before. Each one must follow their life." Roderick and his sons nodded, understanding Evelyn and Cassandra's decision. "Thank you for forgiving us," said Roderick with a voice full of gratitude. "We don't want to cause more pain. We'll follow our lives respecting your wish." Cassandra felt a sense of relief and closure. "I wish you the best," she said sincerely, "but this is the end of our contact." Upon leaving, Roderick looked back one last time, feeling a mixture of sadness and relief. "They forgave us," he thought with a sigh. "Now we have to rebuild our lives away from them." The sons agreed, ready to begin a new stage. "We're going to honor this forgiveness," promised the younger one, determined to do better. Evelyn and Cassandra remained in silence for a moment after their departure. "Was it right, grandmother?" asked Cassandra, seeking confirmation. Evelyn smiled softly, her eyes still shining with tears. "Yes, dear. Forgiveness is powerful, but it doesn't mean forgetting. We did what our hearts asked." Nathaniel entered the room, bringing Felix in his arms. "Is everything all right?" he asked, perceiving the tension in the air. Cassandra smiled, feeling a wave of peace. "Yes, Nathaniel, everything is as it should be." She looked at Felix, who was smiling innocently and felt hope for the future. Our family is safe and united. That's what matters. The days that followed were of reflection and renewal. Cassandra and Evelyn felt lighter, knowing they had forgiven but also established healthy boundaries. Forgiveness is liberating, thought Cassandra as she played with Felix in the garden, but it's important to protect what we've built. Roderick and his sons continued with their lives, carrying the weight of their mistakes but also the opportunity for redemption. "We have a second chance," said Roderick to his sons, feeling grateful for the forgiveness they received. "Let's take advantage of it." They knew the road would be difficult, but they were determined to honor Evelyn and Cassandra's forgiveness. Evelyn, watching Felix play, felt at peace. "We went through so many things," she reflected, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. "But we're here, together and strong." Cassandra sat next to her grandmother, holding her hand. "We'll keep moving forward, grandmother. Together, always," she said with a smile. And so, with enduring love and strength, they continued building their lives, knowing they had reconciled with the past and were ready for a bright future. The years had taught them that family bonds, though sometimes tested by betrayal and greed, could become stronger when built on genuine love and mutual respect. Evelyn, now in her 80s, found new purpose in caring for Felix as he grew up, while Cassandra balanced her career and motherhood, always ensuring that grandmother remained an irreplaceable part of their lives. The house that Roderick had tried to seize had become a symbol of their enduring strength, filled with laughter, love, and the promise that future generations would inherit not just property, but the values of courage and family loyalty that had carried them through their darkest hours. Life is sometimes like a storm. Challenges strike unexpectedly, but it's in the most difficult moments that we truly discover our real strength and the value of those around us. The story of Evelyn's family teaches us that not everything we lose is truly a loss. Sometimes, it's life's way of removing what doesn't belong to us to make room for better things. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting the pain, but choosing not to let that pain control our future. Greed may blind people, but genuine love will always triumph in the end. Family isn't just those who share our blood, but those willing to stand by us in all circumstances, sharing not only joy, but also sorrow. Sometimes, the greatest losses open doors to unexpected happiness. When we learn to cherish what we have, instead of lamenting what we've lost, life becomes more meaningful than ever.